Kufa. Okay, morning we're Tedvav Amud Aleph here. Kufa. On the top, second line. Kufa means we go back to the guf, to the body of what we mentioned before. Amar Rav Yehuda Meshmul Shmona Asa Gazu v'Shmona Asa Nechleku. They made 18 gzeirot, and they argued first about them, and then Beit Shammai won the count because they were the majority. So the Gemara asks, "Vatanya hushvu." That we know that actually were equated, which means that they were equal. They didn't argue. It's a brighter that says that they agreed. So the Gemara answers, "Baba yom nechlekulu macha hushvu." The first day they argued. And then Beit Shammai won because they won the count. They were Gomru v'nimnu, like the Mishnah says. They they counted and they won. The next day, Beit Hillel came back and was modeh to Beit Shammai. I'm not sure if they were modeh because only they agreed, or because they said, since you're majority, so we're going to also follow you in halacha because you made a gzeirah. And maybe they wouldn't do that if it would have been a doraita. Meaning, on a doraita, you have the right to argue, even if for everybody else has to follow the majority, but you that don't see it that way, maybe you're not allowed to even agree with them. But on a gzeirah de rabbanan, it's
maybe they agree, shochem achrei harov. So once there's a psak, they agree that that's the halacha.
Right, but usually it doesn't happen.
What?
Saying, usually if you have a yochid that can argue with the rabbim, the next day because you won, because you're the rabbim, so now the yochid agrees. We keep saying that there's machlokes, Rabbi Eliezer and the Chacham. We keep saying there's machlokes. Well, they're almost not allowed to agree. Because if you don't see it that way in the Torah, you have to follow what you understand. I don't think you're allowed. But over here, it's Gzeir D'Rabbanon. So once you say, I'm saying what you're saying, but only because of Gzeir D'Rabbanon, Acher Rabban Lahatois. So now, fine. So you made a Gzeir, so we'll go with your Gzeirah. I don't know what the pshat is. I think they bring down it is... Fine. There's other pshatim in this Gemara, not like Rashi. Not the way I just said it. That is, Nechleku l'machar hushu means there's another 18 things. There's 18 of this, that they argued, and 18 that they agreed initially, always. That's how others learn. The Rashi learns like this. Because Rashi says, the top Rashi, shechazru bahen Beit Hillel. Okay. Kufa, we go back.
They're saying over what the Hillel said. Isn't that the whole thing? What the Talmudim decide what happens, or it's basically their psak and what they understood from their Rebbe.
Well, we
said on what they understood from their Rebbe. Anyway, yeah.
We said yesterday that Hillel v'Shammai, they really didn't argue. They didn't argue. They actually agreed on Yadayim. Yadayim was one of them, and the Talmidim didn't accept it. And then there was a machloket between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel if they should accept it. A lot of times because Hillel and Shammai agreed, so Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel had two different ways of seeing Torah, and they argued usually about what the Rebbeim said. I'm not sure if it's like that in this case, because this might be a brand new gzeira that they just made. We said before there's only 3 places. So the Gemara wants to go through them. Shammai omer mikav chala. The shiur of chala. Chala means that you, like tirumah that we spoke about so much yesterday, chala is when you take off, you elevate part of the dough. The Torah says that if you make a dough, you have to elevate and separate part of it and give that to the Kohen as a present. That also becomes holy once you separate it and you designate it for the Kohen. That's called being mafrish the chala. And at that moment, that's what the chala... Okay. So, as long as you don't separate the chala, the dough is tevel. Tevel means untaifed. It's asur to be eaten. And the question is, what is the shi'ur for the chala? How much do you need to take off for you to have fixed the dough and allow yourself to eat it?
The kav is a shiur.
What?
Kav is a shiur.
Yes. So Shami Omer Mikav Chala. By the way, today, here, we don't, all the Kohanim are Tamei today. So therefore, when we take off the Chala, everybody's Tamei. And even if they're not, the Kohen is, since the Kohen, the main point is that even if you were able to take it off, but the Kohen is Tamei, so he's going to be Tamei the Chala, he can't eat Chala in its state of impurity. Therefore, what we do is we take it and we burn it. Okay? Now, in America, it's not so simple because Chutz La'aretz Chala, which is only the Rabbanan, could be it's not such a big deal to give it to the Kohen. But the minhag is, the Ramos says we burn it anyways. So Shammai says, Mikav Chala. It means if your dough is the size of a kav is 24 eggs. The volume of 24 eggs is a kav. So now you're chayav to give off chala. Okay. By the way, if you ever want to remember the names of some of the measurements, it's askalb gudu. I mean, if you say it to yourself many times, I heard it when I was a kid, so for me, it's like a little thing. It's easier to remember. My Rebbe pounded it into us. Askalb gudu. Efa. You write it like this. When you write it up down. Aleph samach kuf lamed bet. Askalb gud. Now, in between the aleph and the samach, write gimel, like for gudu. Then the the vav, then is between the next and the next. The dalet is between the next. As, and then put the gimel for the gudu. So how much efa? Let's see what they are. Efa, sa, kav, lug, beitza. So now the beitza is on the bottom. Everybody knows what a beitza is. All the other ones are the unknowns. A beitza is an egg. So now, if you want to know how many eggs there are in the next one, in the lug, so you have gudu, gimel, vav, dalet, vav. 3, 6, 4, 6. That's the numbers. So now, the beitza on the bottom goes to the lug on the next one. 6. So there are 6 beitzot in... I should really write it down and show it. This paper I think I could use, no? Kid's not coming back. It's half good. You have a pen for a second? Thank you. All right, big. I'll show it to everybody. Sorry for there's a lot of writing over here. I don't know if you're able to see it or not, but here you have Ephah. There are 3 sa'ah in an Ephah, but we'll start from the bottom. You have a Beitzah. There are 6 Beitzot in a Lug. And there are now lug. You see, you keep it going like this. There are 6 beitzot in a lug. There are 4 lugin in a kav. There are 6 kavin in a saw, and there are 3 sa'ah in an ephah. So if you times it all together, and you start with an egg, 6 times 4 is 24, times 6 is 144, times 3 is 432. So there are 432 beitzot in an ephah. There are 6 beitzot in a lug. There are 24, 6 times 4, beitzot in a kav. And there are 144 beitzot in a sa'ah. And you know the word sa'ah, you're very familiar with it, with 40 sa'ah in a mikveh, mayim. So 144 times 40, I think it's 5760. I remember that number, I think. That's the number of eggs in a mikveh that's kosher. That's the volume of a kosher mikveh. Now, what are eggs today? It's another machlokes, if they got smaller or not, midoraita or not. But that's the basic thing. All right. If you didn't get that, don't worry. The point that you have to know here is that if you have the size of dough, that's 24 eggs. That's what a kav is, as we see in this chart. Then the chart is a little bigger. They say ki askal ligudu. They add one more. Ki is a kur. So how many kurin? There are 30 ephahs in a kur. Or maybe I made a mistake. Fine. Anyways, askal gudu for sure is right. No, there are 30. So, okay, fine. Okay. Anyways, so that's what Beit Shammai says. And Hillel says 2 kavin. Okay? It has to be double the size, which means you don't have to give challah if your dough is only 1 kav. You have to wait for 2 kavam, which is 48 eggs. It's in between 1.5. Okay? Now, where did they get the number 1.5 from? So, the answer is because the Torah says, Reshit aristotechem. The first of your dough, give to the Kohen. Now, of your dough, what's your dough? What was the amount that a Jew ate in the Midbar? His dough was what he got from the man. The Torah says by the man, the manna was Omer la Gulgolet. 1 Omer, which is a measurement as well, which we didn't mention in this. La Gulgolet for a skull, for a head. Now, an Omer, the Torah says what it is. Veha Omer asidit ha'efahu is 1/10 of an ephah. If an ephah is 432 eggs, that's what it is. So a tenth is 43.2 eggs. Now, 43.2 eggs, the Chachamim say here, is 1.5 kavin. That is the amount. Because the Torah says, the first of your doughs, of your amount, which is 43.2 eggs. Now, let's figure that out. How much is a kav? 24 eggs. What's half of 24? 12. What's 24 plus 12? 36. Something's wrong. So 1.5 kavin is 36 eggs. But a tenth of an ephah is 43.2. So why do they say that 1.5 equals the omer? So the Achronim speak about this kasha, and they say some say that it's milibar. By the way, what's the gematria of challah? 42? 43. It's a shach. Okay. So what's the answer to this kasha?
Different size eggs.
No, because we're going to talk about it in a second. This Mishnah is talking about midot Yerushalmiot, which were 20% larger, a fifth larger. And therefore, if you add that one more fifth, you get to the 43.2. Exactly, because it's Rashi says a sixth, but it means a sixth after you add it. Milbar. Anyways, it's there. Fine, let's continue now. So now, Mishigdilu hamidot. When in Sipori, in the north, there was a city called Sipori, and they started using different measurements. And the measurements got a little bit larger, and therefore, that's what I was just saying. They got larger with 20% then. So then, Amru chameshet rivaim kemach. Since they got 20% larger, so you have to now get 5/4, which is 1.25. It's not enough to have one kav. Shammai is not going to be one, right? Chayavim b'chala. Okay? Now the Chachamim just added now. Yeah, because 5/4 is really what? Yeah, so it's really more because they made the thing larger. So now that they made it larger, 5/4 will already equal 1.5. Even though normally 5/4 is equal is 1.25, but since it's really much larger, so it's really it's how much larger? It's 0.2 larger. It's a fifth larger, so it's 1.2 times 1.25 because that's what you have here is 1.5 is 1.5. It's the same thing. Rabbi Yossi agrees, basically, but he says you need a drop more. Chamisha peturin, chamisha ve'od chayavin. Okay? He says that the eggs, not only do the shiurim get larger, but the eggs in the midah midbaris were also a little bit larger than ours. So therefore you have to add a drop more than the 5/4. Okay, anyways, here is with the first machloket, if you need a kav or kabayim between Shammai and Hillel. Okay? Let's continue. V'idach, another one was, Hillel said that, now there's a psul de Rabbanan. We spoke about it a little bit yesterday. If you're making a mikveh is 40 sa'ah. We know a sa'ah is 144 eggs, so if you do that times 40, it's like 5760 or something eggs. That is the shiur of a mikveh. I think there's a rivash that says that a mikveh really is a person that's 3 amot high, and the Gemara says he's 1 amma wide. That's what. So if he would stand up straight and then turn, be your amma this way and an amma that way. He stands up, amma this way, and then he goes this way. So it's 1 amma by 1 amma. He could turn in all directions, 1 amma by 1 by 3 amot. So it's 3 amot cubed. That's really what it is. You'll see that that's exactly 40 saw. The Rivash says that's why midoraita. That's why it was 40. Where did 40 saw? Because that's what a person fits into, that he can move in both ways. I'm just telling you that's it's unbelievable. That's a Rivash. But lemaisa, okay, very nice. So now you have rainwater that falls into a pit. That amount of water. By the way, it's not a lot. You see, it's just if you go into a regular mikveh today, an average mikveh, even a small one in a Beit HaKnesset, there's a small mikveh. They're way beyond 40 sah. Okay, so now the Chachamim, Mayim She'uvim, drawn water, is not kosher to make a mikveh. The Chachamim said, not only is it not kosher, we're going to make a psul. We're going to say that if you're in your first 40 sa'ah, there were a certain amount of drawn water which are not good. So you say, okay, they're not good. So I can't count them. I'll just wait till another 40 sa'ah of good rainwater that just falls from the sky and wasn't drawn will fall. No. If in the initial 40 sa'ah, there were a certain amount of drawn water, that's the machloket, how much, the whole mikveh is pasul. Midrabanan. And that's why you have to make sure that the first 40 sah don't have that amount. Now, of mayim she'uvim, of drawn water, otherwise it's pasul mikveh. Once you have 40 sah, you could, like the Rambam's lashon, you could keep pouring the whole day, drawn water, no problem. And that's what we do, by the way. Our mikvahs that we go in is drawn water. They fill it up with a hose. So how's it kosher? Because there's a different halacha that's called hashaka. Like if this body of water kisses the next body of water, there's a real bar that was made straight. Water fell right through the roof, not through any kalim. You have to be careful how you make it, into that bar. And now that bar attaches itself to mayim she'uvim in another bar. So once it touches, it makes it all kosher, like it's all part of the first body of water. That's our mikvaot today. Okay, fine. Anyways, so how much water, mayim she'uvim, is posel the mikveh? So it says, Hillel omer melohin, mayim she'uvim posel mit mikveh. Hin, by the way, is 12 lugin. Now, if you look over here, a lug, I'm sorry, this is a very funny paper, Rabbatai. It's very small, and the kid wrote on it yesterday. I know, Michael, please. I know. So anyways, Michael is going crazy at this paper. Beitz a lug. Anyways, what I wrote over here, if you can't see it, is that a lug is 6 eggs. So how much is 12 lugin? 12 times 6? 72 eggs. Now, the Gemara calls that a hin. And we'll see in a second why he called it a hin. The Torah calls it a hin. The Torah says that's the largest amount of liquids that the Torah ever speaks about. Where is that? Where do they speak about that amount? In the libations, the nisachim, that they pour on the mizbeach for large korbanot of bulls on Yom Tov, right? Korbanot tzibur. They pour that amount, a hin. How much? 3 hin, 1 hin, right? Or a third of a hin, half a hin, a hin. That's what we have for a sheep, a ram, and a bull. Right? Ushlishi tahin la'ayil. Urvi'i tahin la'keves yayin. Right? So that's, we talk about a hin. A hin is 72 eggs. So therefore they said like this. Since that's the largest amount, the Chachamim said, if you take the largest amount that's in the Torah of liquids, I mean 72 eggs worth of drawn water was part of your initial 40 sa'ah, okay, which is about 5760. Let me just tell you the right numbers. I keep saying that number. 144 times 40 is yeah, 5760 eggs. While you're filling up, it's raining 5,760 eggs into the mikveh, and from the 5,760 eggs, 72 of them are mayim shuvim pasul. Now the Gemara says, why did they say it like that? Shechayav adam lomar b'lashon rabo. Because a person is obligated to say it in the way that his rabbi said it. And since Hillel was a Talmud of Shemaya and Avtalion, the great Shemaya and Avtalion, and that's what they said. They said hin. So therefore, they also used that language. Shami Omer Tisha Kabin. A kav, if you remember, on our very neat, large paper, now it has more, now it has the math over here, the upside down math. So a kav was 24 eggs. So Tisha Kabin, what's 24 times 9 is 216 eggs. That's how many eggs you need to ruin. Now, we're not talking about eggs, Rabbatai. Don't put eggs in your mikveh. It's the amount of water, the volume of 216 eggs that were drawn. Okay? That is going to ruin the mikveh. Now, where did they get their reason from? Because we learned in Brachot that 9 kavin, a bal keri can really become pure in 9 kavin of water if it's poured on him. I don't know if you remember the Gemara, Daf Chavet over there. So that if you pour 9 kavin of water on a balkari, is tahor. So since that's an amount that there is chashuv, that's significant, therefore if you use mayim shuvin to make a mikveh of that amount, that's the amount that Chachamim said ruins the mikveh. The Chachamim omrim lo kedivizeh, lo kedivizeh. Not like him, not like him. Ad shebo shnei gadim. And we didn't know what they meant until 2 weavers came mishar ha'ashpa sheb'Yerushalayim, from the gates of the garbage in Yerushalayim. And they said, "Ve'idu mishum shmaya ve'avtalion sheshlosha lugim mayim she'uvim posum v'tamikah v'kimu chacham misdivreyim." And they testified that Shmaya and Avtalion actually said that 3 lugin, 18 eggs, ruins a mikvah, and the Chachamim sustained their words, and they said that that's the proper halacha, and that's actually the halacha that we keep today. Yep.
Well, that's to say that they came from Shabbat.
Okay, so they bring down from the Erie over here. So they bring down. So over here, Rashi says to why does it say what they did for a living and where they came from? That a person shouldn't refrain from ever learning. There's no lower job than a weaver. A weaver, someone who weaves clothing. The halacha is that you're not allowed to make a melech or a kohen gadol, even if it's a kohen, from that. He has to be chashuv. The ein shar b'Yerushalayim pachot mishar ashpot. The lowest gate was the gate of Ashpot. Maybe it was near where they threw out the garbage. That's why they called Shar Ashpot. No, today, one of the gates over there. Yeah, still there. V'chriu be'edutan kol chachmei Yisrael. And still, all of the halacha came, the chachamim, not like Shammai, not like Hillel, but like the 2 weavers said from the Shar Ashpot. The lowest job, the lowest place. Because they learned Torah. Those weavers learned Torah. You can't make us a king, you can't make us a kohen gadol. We live in a very low place. We have a low job. But if we learn Torah, Keter Torah is greater than all those things.
You see it by this parsha. You see that Eliyahu ben Achisamach came from
Shevet Dan. Beautiful. Very nice. Very, very nice. And he built the Mishkan together with Tal. Very nice. Okay, but thank you for asking that. It's an important Rashi here. We have to speak out. So everybody, we just have to keep learning Torah. Okay. The Idach, that's the second place. The Idach, the third place, is Shammai Omer Kol Anashim Dayan Shatan. Hillel Omer Mipkida Lefkida Afilu Yom Harbi. Okay, basically in those days, the ladies had to check themselves all the time to see if they were Tameh. They had to make a bedikah, an inner inspection to see if they were Tameh. Why? Because they were dealing with, like Shlomo was speaking about last night, they were dealing with taharot. And the taharot, if they're touched by a nida, right, they're not tahor, and you have to know what's going on with your things. And therefore, they were very careful to always check themselves. So what happens if a lady checks herself and she finds blood on the cloth that she used to check herself? So now, from when was I tameh? From the second? From an hour ago? What do I assume? So the famous Shammai, the first words in masechet Nida, Shammai Omer, Kol Anashim, Dayan Shatan. Right now. It's enough that they found now. Now you found, now you're tameh. You were touching taharot 5 minutes ago, they're fine. Okay? Now this is a huge machloket to a lot of lumdus on Daf Bet, Gimel, Dalid, in Nida. And basically, they say that usually the kotle Beit HaRechem, the walls of the womb of the Beit HaRechem, don't hold blood. So if the blood left the makor, which is what makes her tameh, the source of where the blood comes out of, right, the uterus, it wouldn't have remained in there for a while. It comes straight out. Okay? So you don't say, oh, maybe it was just waiting in there and she was already tameah. They say that the walls of the Beit HaRechem do hold things. And therefore, if you find yourself tehora, one day she checks, let's say this morning, she checks, Sunday morning. She checks herself, everything's good. And she doesn't follow the decree of the Chachamim that she's supposed to check every day. She is relaxed. She only checks a week later, next Sunday morning. So, she didn't listen. So now what we say is, oh, Sunday morning you checked and now it's a problem, the next Sunday morning? So now mifkida lifkida, which means that you have your tme'ah from the last time you checked. Everything you touched in the last week of taharot is tameh. It's a very, very great chumrah of Hillel.
To check every day. Now that you had a whole week rather than yesterday.
Exactly. If you would have checked every day, and everything would have been fine yesterday, then we would have just said till yesterday. But the point is, from whenever you checked, from the mipkida, from this checking, lifkida, it could have been a month ago. Everything is tameh. Ve'afilu liyamim habei, even if it's many, many days. That's a very great difference between Hillel and Shammai. Hillel is being very machmir here. The Chachamim omrim. The Chachamim say lo k'divrei zeh v'lo k'divrei zeh. What do they say? They say like this. L'ma'et le'et mima'et ayad nefkida lefkida. Okay? Each one of these times, 8 le'et is a new time. 8 le'et means 24. From time, this moment, to the last time that it was this moment. Right now it's 8:49. So 8:49 yesterday morning. So if that will mitigate the time, mifkida lefkida. Which means, if 24 hours ago is less time than the last time you checked, then all you gotta wait is 24 hours.
So the most you wait is 24 hours, because if the bdika was less, right?
Exactly. Umifkida lefkida mimayit ayad me'et le'et. And if the checking was less than the 24 hours, because I checked 12 hours ago, then you go by the last checking, obviously, because everything was fine, the last checking. So that's what they say. Okay, fine. So that is the three shittot, but here's the third time that Hillel and Shammai argued. So the Gemara says, "V'tuleka." Is there no more times that they argued? Ve'a'ika Hillel omer lismoch, v'Shammai omer shelo lismoch. You know, the Chachamim said you're not allowed to use an animal on Shabbat, Bal Chai. You might go on an animal, and then when you're riding, you might take off a piece of the tree. But they decided that the Gzerah was don't use an animal. Now, one of the parts of the process of bringing a carbon is that you have to do smicha. We just read it in the Torah yesterday. V'samach yado. See? This was yesterday's blot, but they learned it after mincha. V'samach yado al rosh ha'olah. You do smicha. So the question is, do you do smicha on Yom Tov when you bring korbanot or not? So Shammai says no, because it's through the Rabbanan. It's through the Rabbanan. But, so when do you do smicha? Do it the day before. But Hillel says the Rabbanan didn't get involved here. Now what's wrong with smicha? Smicha is you put your, I didn't mention what smicha is, Michael. Smicha is that you lean on the animal. Michael's watching. Michael's mashgiach. So you will lean on the animal with all of your strength. So you're using the animal. It's holding you up. So it should be part of the Gzerah. So the Beit Shammai says it is, and therefore you have to do it the day before. But Hillel says, no, they didn't bother you with this. Why? Because Hillel holds that the halacha of smicha, of leaning, it has to be done takef the shchita. Right before the shchita, that's what he holds. And therefore you have to do it on Yom Tov. So the Chacham said, all right, for smicha, we're not going to make the isur. So the Gemara says, there we go, we found another machloket. Hillel says you could do it because there's no other choice. Shammai says don't do it today, you could do it yesterday. Okay? So now the problem is, I just want to mention one little detail here. If you look at Rashi, Rashi says, problems like this. Karbanot Tzibur, we don't have smicha. It's only private karbanot. private kabbanot you bring on Yom Tov? So, really, that's a three-way machloket in Beitza. I'm learning it with the mayor right before you come. Now it's this machloket. So, but everybody holds that the Shalmei Chagiga and Shalmei Simcha, which are shlamim, peace offerings that you bring privately for yourself to eat that meat on Yom Tov, are brought. So that's where it will be applicable, this machloket. On the shlamim, on the private offerings, which we're going to bring Be'ezrat Hashem this week, or not this week, you'll bring shlamim Be'ezrat Hashem, and this Yom Tov, this Pesach Be'ezrat Hashem. So that's where the machloket is. Okay, so the Gemara asks, there we find a fourth machloket. So the answer is Kika Maravuna Heicha Deleka Plukta Derabvata Behadayu, which means the three times that Rav Huna said, nobody before Hillel and Shammai had this machloket. They were the ones that had the machloket. But by Smicha, all the Avot Betin, with the Nesiim, from Yosi ben Yoezer till Hillel, they were arguing about this. Hillel and Shammai just joined the argument. They took sides. Shammai said, no, you could do it yesterday. Hillel said, yeah. But it wasn't their machloket. Fine. So Gemara now says, Va'ika abotze lagat. Now, okay, let me just give it another short little introduction to another halakha. It's a very simple halakha. There are 7 liquids that are very famous in the Torah. Yad, we remember it like this. Yad, shachat, the hand that slaughters, dam, blood comes out. And what they stand for is yayin, yad is yayin, dalid is dam, shin from shachat is shemen, chet is chalav, tet is tal, dew. So let me just say them in English so far. Wine, blood, oil, milk, dew. And the last word is dam. Dalit is dvash. And mem is mayim. Dvash is honey. Honey, that doesn't mean just honey from a flower. It means from a date. And mayim, water. Those seven mashkin, what do they do? What's so significant about them? The answer is like this. We spoke about it the other day. V'chiyutan mayim al zera al kol zera zerua asher yizereh. The halacha is that in order for food to become tamei, it can't just come into contact with something that is tamei, unless it became susceptible to tumah. How does food become susceptible to tumah? To be able to contract tumah? Only if it was made wet with the consent of the owner. He was happy about it. With which liquid? These 7 liquids. Yeah. So it's like this. Habatze lagat. Someone that gathers, that harvests grapes, lagat, for his wine press. Okay? Now what happens like this. He's carrying that box of grapes to the wine press. Now, inevitably, what would happen is some of the grapes would get a little pressed, and a little of the wine would come out, a little of the juices. Okay? So now the grapes are wet. With what? With yayin. That's one of the 7 mashkin. So now the grapes are susceptible for tumah. Now if something tumah touches them, well, nobody wants that to happen because you're losing that. So the Beit Shammai said, you're right. Min Torah, that wetness is nothing. But since sometimes people are happy about it because they would take the grapes in crates that were closed, so therefore that wine is going to be preserved. So they're happy about the wine already coming out. It makes the process easier, whatever it is. Therefore, even when the wine is actually going to drip out and you're going to lose it, some of that wine, right, with the traveling of the grapes till the wine press, still they were gozer, and they said that it's as if you wanted it, since sometimes you want it, and therefore the grapes are huchshar, are made ready, susceptible for the tumah, and they said huchshar. Huchshar means kosher. Kosher really means made ready. That's why the masechet machshirin means ready for tumah, like a negative thing. V'hillel omer lo huchshar. So here we have another machloket. So the Gemara says, Bar minei dahi hatam kashatik le Hillel l'shamai. Okay? There, we're not going to count that one because there Hillel came back and agreed with Shammai. So they didn't remain in a machloket. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to what we said before. Yossi ben Yoez ish tzreide v'Yossi ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim gozru tuma al eretz am ve'al klis dechuchit. They were gozer tuma on the land of the nations. Again, why? If you walk out of Eretz Yisrael, there were many, many goyim buried all over the place. We don't know where they're buried. And goyim are mitamei. The corpses of goyim are mitamei. So therefore they said, since we don't know where they are, anywhere you are over there is tamei. Ve'al klis dechuchit, and on glass. Even though glass is made out of earth, but it's not earthenware, it's glassware. So really the Torah doesn't speak about its state of impurity at all. But they would say that it is tamei. We'll see why. So the Gemara says, it doesn't make sense. Something's wrong here, says the Gemara. You're telling me that it was Yossi ben Yoezer, Ish Tzreida, and Yossi ben Yochanan, Ish Yerushalayim. They were very, very early in times over here. Now, we'll see soon how early they were. But the problem is that we have a Braita that says that someone else made this up, which was much later. So how's that going to be reconciled? That's the Gemara's question. And the Gemara brings down like this. V'harabanan d'shmonim shana gazur. Which means the Rabbanan that lived 80 years before the destruction of the second temple, the Beit HaMikdash, they were the ones that made this Gzeda. How do you know that? And that is way later than Yossi ben Yoezer ish Tzreida and Yossi ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim. The Omer of Kahana, Kishachal Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yossi. When Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yossi became sick, Shalchulo, the Chachamim sent to him, Rabbi, a master, Amar lanu shnayim u'shlosha dvarim shamarta mishum avicha. Tell us 2 or 3 things that you said in the name of your father. His father was Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. Okay? And he made the Sefer, and that's Rabbi Yossi that we have all, Seder Olam. Seder Olam tells us all about the Seder of the Zmanim and the Todot Olam. So, they wanted to find out things from him about the Seder Olam. Shalach lehem kach omer Abba. My father said as follows: 180 years before the destruction of the second Bayit, Pashta Malchut Harisha'al Yisrael, the Romans' hand started to the conquest, the vanquishing of Yisrael. 100 years after that, which was 80 years before the Bayit was destroyed, Gazru Tumal Eretz Am ve'al Klei Zechuchit. They were gozer the Tuma on Eretz Amim and on the Klei Zechuchit. So now, that better be the same time as Yossi ben Yoezer and Ish Tzreida. And it's not, we're going to see in a minute, it wasn't. Because this is 80 years before it was destroyed. And 40 years before the destruction of the temple, the Sanhedrin, they exiled themselves from the great place where L'shichno tidrshu uvat Hashem, the Torah says, go and find out the Torah's halacha. The halacha from the great Sanhedrin of 71 greatest Torah scholars that sat by the Beit HaMikdash, and from there, Kimitzion Teitzei Torah. Because since they were sitting near the Shekhinah, they were able to understand the Torah the best, and that's where the Torah came out. They exiled themselves 40 years before the Churban Beit HaMikdash, and they sat Bechanuyot. Where they sit? In a place of the Har HaBayit. It was called Chanuyot. Now, what was so significant about 40 years? Because 40 years before the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, the Gemara says in Yuma that many nisim happened that used to happen in the Beit HaMikdash stopped happening. It was like HaKadosh Baruch Hu was sending him another sign. You better do teshuvah. The doors would open of the Heichal every day, automatically. No electricity, no smart. It was a smart home without any. Nobody had to set it up. No company had to come to your house and make the home. It was set up by Hashem. The doors, massive doors. they would open up by themselves and close, right? Every morning. Every year on Yom Kippur, the right hand would always pick up La Hashem, La Azazel. The right hand would always pick up La Hashem. No more after 40 years. The red string on Yom Kippur that would turn white once they threw down wouldn't turn white anymore. The Ner Ma'aravi that was Dolek, remember, that never went out? The Ner Ma'aravi on the menorah, one of them, stopped. Okay, anyways, and we know Rabbi Tzadok fasted for 40 years. He only ate a little bit, tiny drop maybe at night, and we know that he died at the end, terrible. But Rabbi Tzadok was fasting for Klal Yisrael for those 40 years. So these 40 years, the Chachamim, they picked themselves up from the Lishkat HaGazit, and they went to this other place. Okay, so the Gemara says, Lemay Hilchata. Why in the world did they pick themselves up? And what halacha do you find out from that? What's the difference in the halacha, whether they were still sitting in the Lishkat HaGazit, which is the original, the main place where they should be sitting, in the Beit HaMikdash, was an office that's called the office of Gazit, or they left and they went to a different part of the mountain which wasn't as holy. The answer is, Dine Knasot Salkad. So the Gemara says, Dine Knasot. If you're not in the place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the Sanhedrin to sit, they're not able to judge fines, payments, right? Okay? So the Gemara says, Dines Knasot Salkadaitach. Why in the world can they not judge Dine Knasot? In order to judge Dine Knasot, you don't need to be sitting in the holiest place in the Beit HaMikdash, where not the holiest spot of the Beit HaMikdash, in the place where the Sanhedrin sat, the Lishkat HaGazit. You don't need that. So the Gemara says, they were not able to be done Dinei Nefashot anymore. Which means, capital punishment, you're only able to judge, even 23 judges were able, Sanhedrin were able to do it in their own cities, but only when the real Sanhedrin of 71 were sitting in the Lishkat HaGazit. If they were exiled, they exiled themselves to another part of the Har HaBayit, no more were you able to dan din nefashot. So the Gemara says, goes back to the point, and the Gemara says, "V'chitem b'shonim shanan nami inu hava." If you tell me no, you know what? Even though this Braita taught us that 80 years before the Churban Beit HaMikdash, the Chachamim were gozer Tumah on the Eretz Ha'amim and on Klei Zechuchit, on Chutz La'aretz, out of Israel, Eretz Yisrael, and on glass, and maybe that is the same era of Yosef ben Yoezer. That's the Chachamim that did it 80 years before. The Gemara says, don't try that, because Ve'otanya, Hillel v'Shimon, Gamliel v'Shimon, No'aguz nisiyotam lefnei habayit 100 shana. Hillel was appointed the Nasi 100 years before the Churban. After him came Rabbi Shimon, his son. After him came Rabbi Gamliel HaZaken. And after that came Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, which was at the time of the Churban. He was the one that was killed, one of the 10 Eser Harugei Malchut. So now, Yosef ben Yoezer ish tred, Yosef ben Yoezer havikad metuva. They came way before. They were considered the first peer. If you learn Masechet Avot, and Hillel and Shammai which was 100 years before the Churban, were the last of the 5 peers. Okay? So that means 100 years before, not 80 years before, was Hillel and Shammai. And way before that was Yosef ben Yoezer, Ishtreid of Yosef ben Yoezer Ish Yerushalayim. So they lived way before 80 years before the Churban, and they made it. So it's a steer, we have a contradiction over here. So the Gemara says, there were 2 different stages of the Gzeirah. That's what happened. First, what happened was, Yosef ben Yoezer and Yosef ben Yochanan Ish Yerushalayim, they, Atu Inu, the Gazur Agusha, the 2 Yosis, came, and they were Gozer Agusha Lisra ve'avir ve'lo klum. That means if you have a clump of earth from America, okay, that clump of earth, that is the Amim, Eretz HaAmim, the land of the Amim. If that touches Truma, you're going to burn the Truma as if it was Mamash Tamei for sure. Okay? But let's say the Truma enters the ear space out of Eretz Yisrael, you're by the border, it enters the ear space. Or you take it in a box that has ear coming through the bottom. So on that, v'lo klum. They said that's not a problem. Okay? Now, why not? Even though if you're over it's the same chashash, right? The Achronim speak about this. It's the same chashash. If there's a goy buried there, and you're over that area, so it's going to be a tumat ohel. If you're over the area of a dead person, right? So, they did not make the gzeira on the avir, on the ear space. It's only if the actual land touches teruma, then the teruma will be the aturabana. That's what they did. And the 80 years before the Churban, which was way later, they came along, v'aturabanan deshunim shram, gazura avira litlot. They came and they said, no. If the Truma enters the ear space of Eretz HaAmim means the land of the nations, out of Eretz Yisrael, then you don't burn the Truma, but you're toleh the Truma, which means you don't eat it, and you don't burn it, you leave it. Okay? Because maybe it's tahor. So what do? You wait till it rots, you just don't leave it alone. Okay? So now the Gemara says, remember the chazak derta havel l'sreifa. So the Gemara says, you're telling me that if the gusha means a clump of earth, touches the truma, the initial gzera of Yossi and Yossi was to burn the truma, vaday, not the airspace. The Gemara says, but Ilfa taught us that Yadayim initially was made l'sreifa. Remember we had this yesterday? So the Gemara makes a diak, Yadayim who the tchilas gzerat l'seifa, hamid yachin lo. But all the other gzerot, they never made it so harsh. Only Yadayim, which means that initially, if the first time that they made the gzera was Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan, they couldn't have said that if the gush ha'eretz ha'amim, the clump of earth, the earth touches the truma, you burn it as if it's vadai tameh. You say, oh, it's a clump of earth. We look at the earth for sure has tuman. There's for sure something buried in that, some bones or whatever from a goy. We look at it. It's not true because only a dying word is initially so strict. So how could you say that the initial step was to burn if the earth and the avir was litlot, and then later on they said that even the avir is to burn? Does that make sense? The Gemara says, Ela atu ina v'gazera gusha litlot v'avir v'lo klum. What happened was, Yossi said that the gusha, the earth, and the avir, the gusha is litlot. You don't eat it, you don't burn it. The avira is nothing. And the next ones came along 80 years before the Churban. They said, gusha, the earth, is listrof, not litlot. And they went up a notch for each one. Avira is litlot. So the Gemara asked now, "Ve'akati be'usha gazer." You're telling me that when did they make this gzera? They made it before the Churban, 80 years before the Churban. The problem is that it really happened in Usha. Usha was after the Churban. Usha was one of the 10 spots where the Sanhedrin were gola to, where they exiled to. And the Usha stop was after the Churban Beit HaMikdash. Okay? Remember they went to Yavne, and Yochanan ben Zakkai said, "Ten li Yavne v'chachameo." That was one of the spots. Yeah. Amen. So the Gemara says, "Ve'akati v'usha gazer titnan al shisha sfikot sofinet hatruma." Do you mind closing this door? Yeah, thank you so much. I think it'll be better for them. Yeah. Okay, I'll see you later, Ravi. Have a good day. Stay well. Zlat Hashem. So the Gemara says, "You're telling me, Vakati." It says the Gemara, "Vakati be'usha gazur." Where? How do you see that? Titnan al shisha svekot sofinet hatruma. The Mishnah says that there are 6 different doubts, svekot. Okay? And at the end of the Mishnah, we're going to see that Ula is going to say that these 6, I'm just telling you, give you a little heads up, these 6 svekot, this Mishnah, was all done in Usha. Okay, now one of these 6 you're going to see is Tumas Eretz Amim. So it's going to be a problem. It was done after the Churban. You said it was done 80 years before the Churban, and part of it was done way before that. So what are they? Let's go through them. Al shisha svekot sofinet hatruma. Al svek bet hapras. Okay, bet hapras. We had this a little bit, I think, in Brachot. Is actually this is mamash yesterday's parasha Pkudei. It says vayifros et haohel. Okay, pras means that there's tumas spread over a large area. Basically, if you have a field that you know that there was a kever there, someone buried, and the field was plowed, the Chachamim made a very great gzera, and they were worried that maybe some of the bones that were the size, of the right size, that can be mitameh, were spread through the plowing, throughout 100 amot radius, okay? So, okay, anyways, if you enter a suffix Beit HaPras, you're not sure if it's a Beit HaPras. So, it's not really a suffix Beit HaPras. It's not a suffix if it's a Beit HaPras. A Beit HaPras is a suffix. It's a place where you don't know. So the Chachamim said, that suffix, you have to look at it like it's vadai. And therefore, if you brought Truma in there, you burn it. Any clump of earth, this is the key. This is the main kasha is going to come from this case. That was brought from Eretz Amim into Eretz Yisrael. There's a safek, maybe that has some sort of bones from a goy that was buried there, the size of a barley that can be mitameh. Therefore, if it touches teruma, you burn the teruma. V'asfek bigdei ha'aretz. The Amaratzim were not careful with Tuma and Tara. So you have to be very worried that if you touch, that beged of Amaretz touches Truma, maybe his wife sat on it when she was in Idah. And if his wife sat on it when she was in Idah, then guess what? It's Tameh, and he doesn't care. So therefore, you burn the Truma. V'asvek kelim hanimtza'in. If you have begadim or any kelim that are in the streets and in the marketplaces, you have to worry that maybe they are tamei. Therefore, if they touch teruma, you burn the teruma. Next case, v'asafek harukin. What's v'asafek harukin? Any saliva that you find maybe came from a zav or a zava which are tamei with ava tuma, very high level tuma, and that saliva is also tuma, ava tuma. Therefore, any saliva you find, if it touches teruma, you have to burn the teruma. Any urine that you find might come from a zav and a zava, even if it's found next to an animal's urine, which you could probably assume that second pile or puddle of urine is also probably from the animal. I know this is from the animal, so maybe this puddle, maybe it's from a zav and a zava. And therefore, if that came into contact with any teruma food, You have to burn it. Al vadai magan shehu svek tumatan. And the Mishnah ends off like this. So finita truma. If you know that they for sure touched truma, even though the safek, the item that touched truma is itself a safek truma, you burn the truma. Rabbi Yossi Omer, af al sfek maga'am b'shut hayachid sofin. He says, you know that we spoke about this the other day. If you have a reshut hayachid, just like a stota was secluded, a reshut hayachid is a private domain. So any secluded area, if you have a safek there, just like the stota, the woman who is secluded with another man and we don't know what happened there, she is tamei to her husband, as long as she doesn't drink from the waters. So to any doubt that happened in a secluded area is tamei. So Rabbi Yossi goes so far to say that he says like this, that he says, even if you don't even know if the terumah touched these items, which themselves are a safek if they're tamei, but your doubt if it touched it happened in a secluded area, and you burn also. Wow. The Chachamim said no. If it happened in a secluded area and you're not sure if they touched, then you don't burn. You told that you let it hang there. B'shut harabim, and if it happened in B'shut harabim, tehorin. And the only time that you burn is when you know that it actually touched. So even though the item is right, there are three stages.
When you tole, what does that do?
It means you leave it alone. You let it rot. It means don't eat it. If you're a kohen, don't eat it because you're not allowed to eat terumah that's tamei. The Omar Ula al shisha elu shisha svekot be'usheit kino. And Ula says, these 6 svekot, when were they made? When did the Chachamim decree that they should be tamei? They're in Usha, that's way after the Churban. Not 80 years before and not before 80 years, right? So the Gemara says there were 3 stages. Okay? The initial stage was the 2 Yossis. They said, like we said before, the Gusha, the actual Eretz Amen, is litlot. If it touches the Terumah is Tameah, but don't burn it. The Avira, if the ear space of out of Israel came into contact with the Terumah, came into contact with the ear, nothing. The middle stage was that the Chachamim said that not only is the gush litlot, but even the avir, even the ear space is also litlot. Ve'atu be'usha litlot means hanging, which means you don't burn it, but it's tamei enough that you can't eat it. Ve'atu be'usha, and the latest 3rd stage after the Chuban was kazura gusha listrof ve'aviru kede'ati kai. They left it the way it was, that it's litlot, you don't eat, but you don't burn. But they went the furthest, and they said you burn if you actually touched the earth. I think we'll stop over here, Rabbatai. Chazak Baruch. Everybody have a healthy day amongst all of Klal Yisrael.
Amen.